Hello, guys. Um, Welcome to this live video. Anyone in, but it's good, so I can have some talk. I decided to go back and join a group that I have been a part of for a long time, and then I stopped for another long time. And now I came back into, which is the on Facebook M42 M44 group, and I think I do have a problem on coming across to people, as people seem to see me as always putting negative comments on stuff. I don't mean to be negative in any way, shape, or form. I tend to be realistic about what is what, and like when people share things about the 2.1 strokers and stuff, I understand it, I respect it, nothing against it. It's not the route I would go because I don't like the dynamics of it. I spoke about it years ago when I saw like 3 failed in a row. And I said why I didn't like them. The thing is, what gets me the most is when they go wrong, people never mention anything about it. They just say they have strokers and that's it. But the people that I've seen that had strokers before, no one is on the group anymore. They just disappeared. So this is the strange thing. Anyway, but going back to it. So is genuinely no hate onto others' builds. It's just the thing that gets me the most is the fact that people still believe like the power is on the displacement when it actually isn't. What displacement will help. Now the thing that is I try to educate people and show to them on the builds I do is you actually don't need to go bigger displacement to make a lot more power, or you don't need to go ITVs to make more power. I never say they are bad. I said I don't like them and I explained why. To me, they are bad, but doesn't mean they are bad to you. This is a personal thing. I think it's bad. You like it, It's up to you. Then down the road, you'll find the things I mentioned about them snapping cranks and all those sort of things. Now, it's your money, it's your decision. You choose where you want to put it. It's not to me to decide, but to me, it's a big waste of money to go to do such an extensive build to something that is actually not where the power can be obtained at. It's the full dynamic of the engine that creates the power, and of course it's the torque. There's only till today on these all these years I've been on a page with the M42s, M44s. Out of hundreds and hundreds of people, only once I had the right answer for a stroker. I asked the guy, why did he go stroker? And he said, because he wanted to have broader torque curve. That is a very good reason to have a stroker. If your aim is not to rev crazy, but you just want to have a broader torque curve, of course you will need displacement. You cannot replace this displacement to get more torque. Like a smaller displacement is capable of doing good torque, but you will need to rev it, and then of course there's all the dynamics involved on it. It comes down to the volumetric efficiency and how much air an engine is able to take in. But like the thing that gets me is people with unproven tests and unfounded theories that sometimes try to argue like the 2.1s is the best thing since sliced bread, and it's not really the case. It's just one of those things. As I said, I respect everyone's builds, but it's just my opinion on it. So anyway, now let's change subject. I only have 2 persons watching the live now, which is I'm opening to questions and stuff. So if people want to ask questions, I'm going to go direct to another subject. So as some of you might know, we are deep into our M45s now. So we move on from the M42s. Hello, Adrian. And we move more into the newer stuff, so like we put in quite a lot of time and funds towards the getting the most out of these engines. And it's really, really amazing the things that this engine can make. And you see, this is an engine that it has very long stroke. But on this one, I don't mind it because it also has a very long conrod. Therefore, it has a nice conrod ratio. It can be made to rev. It can rev happily. And now we're going to have someone that just decided to come in. Hello, Sophie. Do you want to be in the video? So we got someone that is learning now. She will be good in the future. This is Sophie. Say hello. Hello to the video. Say hello. Hi. She's shy. She's a bit ill at the moment. She hasn't slept well. I haven't slept well. I think you guys can see in my eyes. But she's fine. She's okay. Thank you, Sophie. She's very shy at the moment. She needs to warm up. She hasn't seen this before. And it's the first time I'm actually using the laptop to do a live video. So going back to it, we are on the N45 page. And it's an engine that I really, really enjoy working on and pushing on. It's not rewarding yet in terms of power numbers, but the torque numbers I'm seeing on this engine is just really phenomenal. It just shows how much potential the engine really has. The thing is something that, like the older versions of the older, like M44 M42s, are never going to be able to reach without some serious work, because of the Vanos. You know, it's a massive advantage to get torque out there. Now, the reason why they aren't making the power yet, that the heads can flow, is purely because I haven't made yet the right combo for it. So I don't have yet the right combination of cam, the right combination of head. You know, I'm starting to have now the auxiliaries to go with the heads. We have developed the valves, all the valve train, and now we are on the stage that we have had already a full exhaust done for those engines, including exhaust manifold, which has proven to be really, really good in terms of gain. Like we gain, along with, of course, the Vanos adjustment for the new exhaust, we gained close to 30 foot-pounds at 3,000 RPM, which is crazy. Of course, Vanos helped quite a lot on that side, but I could adjust the Vanos on the exhaust side a bit more and having gains, while with the previous exhaust manifold, it didn't have any more than what it had on it. So I tried and adjusted. As you guys know, I do spend a lot of time on the dyno. And since this engine was built, it has seen over 300 tests on the dyno. So it's well and truly run in. It's nice to drive, but as I said, like now I'm pushing to the power side. I see the torque ability, and it's just pushing to the power side. We have done our first proper, thought of intake manifold for the engine. It's something we're going to be testing. Not expecting. Mama, here we go. We're not expecting crazy gains, but we're expecting some decent gains at the top. At least with the current cam using on the engine, I'm not expecting to see much more than, I would say, 190 bhp, which is 100 bhp per liter, but the cam is very mild. The head is very mild. So this head on this engine at the moment is only a V1, and cams are only V1 as well. So it's a 217 degree duration at 1 mil, and it's not crazy lift. As I said, it's something that it's a bolt-on cam to a standard engine, so it will work on a standard engine. It's more focused on torque and drivability. This is the way this head was made. So there was no work done at all on the exhaust side of it, only on the intake side. The exhaust side will help massively in terms of gaining power at top end. But at this point, I'm just finding the best combination, so then in the future, it's a nice product, well developed for people to put on their cars, so people get the best out of it. We just power isn't critical, like peak power. The engine still makes very good average power. So I just opened a page in here of my dyno, and we only revving to 6.9 at the moment, which is nothing. But like on the stock intake, it's pointless to rev any further. It just starts dropping the power. But we have a very high average power. So our average power from 3,000 to 7,000 to 7,000 RPM, it's 131 bhp, which is a lot for something that only makes 150 bhp at wheels. All of this happens because the car has a great torque curve as well. So it's 168 foot-pounds of torque. It's very decent. It works well. I still need to work with the YouTube on the laptop. So I'm going to try a few things. Okay, this is just, it's hard for me now to show you like the printouts as I'm looking at them. But, pardon. I'm going to try to get another example of a car that makes more power. But then more peak power. Okay, so give me just a second. I'll have to look for it. I'm just going to regroup some dyno tests because I still haven't done. And last time my car was on the dyno, we made quite a few tests. We made 60 tests, like testing Vanus positions and stuff to adjust the car for the exhaust. And I can tell you, we have had so we have dynoed now. I'm going to tell you exactly how many times I've dynoed this engine. Well, it's not 300 times, 278 tests on the, well, it's not that far off on this engine so far, which is still quite a lot for an engine that just started running in December. So you can see, like end of December as well. We are, the engine is a month old now, and it has the 270 something tests. So, no, I don't know where to go on the conversation because like there's no one interacting. I could talk M44, but I've done it so many times already. Like there's so many videos of me talking about M44s that I don't know what to talk that can be different. I haven't done anything new on M44s recently. I've just been focusing on getting more out of this N44, so November, which is based on the N45. And it's a bit different when I cannot show you as well the printouts of the dyno. It just makes it more awkward because I'm looking at it, but you guys cannot see it unless I put a mirror here. You guys cannot really see what I'm doing. So I'm also reorganizing things. This is getting a bit on the boring side for you. Just stay there and look at me. It's if you can ask questions, it will make this video a lot more interesting. There we go. So, can you tell us how you choose engine oil, both spread and viscosity? Okay. Engine oil. I tested so many different brands. I found some to be really bad. Even on dyno, sometimes you can tell. Viscosity. How do I go about viscosity? For starters, like I'm based in UK, so the weather in here is quite cold. So I try to see what car is going to be used as. On a road car, I would say 540 in UK, or somewhere you can go 1040, it's fine. On a car that is a fast road setup, I would go 550, and then race stuff, I would go 1060 or 1550. But it's a very specific brand for the 1550. It's a Joe Gibbs oil, which is very good. This is the oil that impressed me the most because it's one of those oils. I put the oil on the engine, and the engine was quieter. It usually you cannot really tell, but this oil was really, really amazing. Like you could hear the engine was actually quieter with this oil, which is something I haven't seen on any other oil. Also, you mentioned previously that you should change your oil according to oil pressure. Can you? Okay, it's not quite like that. What I say, like, you can look at oil pressure and see when the oil is starting to lose viscosity. This is what I mean. So, when you put a new oil on the engine, if you have an oil pressure gauge, you will see like the oil pressure is going to be higher than when the oil gets older. The older it gets, the less pressure is going to have because it starts losing viscosity. I got a good example on this 119. I'll call it 119 on my 116. So I've changed the oil since the engine was built 5 times, and the engine because it's very dependent on oil, it's very sensitive to oil as well. Like these engines even have like a very high flow oil pump because they require that for the double Vanos, because Vanos uses a lot of oil. And what happens is when the oil gets bad, I would say bad, the engine, as the lifters start making noise. And I've found that because all of a sudden I had a lifter that started making quite a lot of noise, and I thought, okay, a lifter has given up because it has happened before. Then I decided to take the oil off, and I've noticed the oil was very bad. Mostly because it has spent loads of hours on the dyno, this last oil, before I put this new one in, and it wasn't quite the grade I wanted to have. So it was a 540 oil, and I really need a 550 or a 1060 because of the use the engine has. So if you have an oil pressure gauge, what I meant is it's easier for you to gauge how viscous your oil still is by controlling the pressure you still have. And then, of course, every engine is different in terms of the oil pressure they're going to have. All it takes for you is to change the bearing clearance, and your oil pressure is going to be very different. Like my 318 cold oil pressure, like cold, I mean summertime, not winter time. Cold oil pressure used to be around 60, 65 psi. When it was hot, around 25 to 30 psi. When the oil used to get worse, like when I used to change, is when I used to see like on cold was starting to get below the 40 psi, which is still very high pressure. And then on hot used to go to around 20 psi. So this is where I used to like change the oil. I like the oil to have the good lubrication ability. I've seen engines failing before because of bad oil, and it's extremely important because the viscosity of the oil is going to determine how reliable your engine is going to be, all because of the big end oil film that you always need to have. If the oil is less viscous, you're going to lose more pressure through the big ends because it will take like, how do I put it? It needs to be more viscous, not to bleed out as much from the sides. Therefore, you're more likely to have bearing contact with the crank, because like you have to remember the big end bearings, they are not supposed, they always do touch, but it's not supposed to be touching the crank at all. It's called a journal bearing because it floats on oil, so it needs a constant feed of oil to don't touch anymore, and to keep everything working nicely. This generates no friction almost, because it's just working on a film of oil. This is why it's so important to have, with oil pressure on the engine, it's important for you to monitor the oil pressure and of course the oil quality. It's your engine. At the end of the day, you need to keep it safe, in order to keep it reliable. And the oil choice has to do, like, you have to see what your engine does. It's like where you are, what you do with it. The other thing I do in terms of brand, I tend not to buy recycled oil. Don't buy the cheap oils, please. It's just something I don't do. Now, due to the amount of oil changes I do change oil very frequently. I do usually no more than 3,000 miles on same oil, because of the way I tend to drive the cars. And if it involves track days, I even change it before and after the track day. I'd rather change the oil more often and have an engine lasting longer than having an oil that they say it will do more miles, but then the oil is going to be worse. It's just at the end of. Like, you don't need to go to the most expensive thing you can find. You have to go and see do some studying and see things like the viscosity of the oil, fatigue tests. You have to look at this and study that brand and see what's on the oil, and what is in the oil is what determines how good the oil is. Like the percentage of the additives the oil will have. Synthetic oils, they have a lot of additives on them. Most of them are really good. What is your opinion on the Ford Sierra RSFI? Oh, that's a hard question, because I never really looked at those cars. I like the Sierras, but I think the Sierra has to be rear-wheel drive. Four-wheel drive, you'll have a Cossie, an Escort, but the Sierra rear-wheel drive is proper touring car stuff. This is the way I would go for. Not it's just, I think a Sierra is really cool being rear-wheel drive with plenty of poke. Just this is the way I see a Sierra. Four-wheel drive, I think it's more reserved for the Escorts. Of course, the Cossie ones, not the old ones like Mark 1 and Mark 2. It has to be rear-wheel drive 100%. So I looked at the Sierra as like a newer version of that car almost. I know it's completely different, it's much bigger and everything, it's turbo engine and stuff, but yeah, I think it uses the spot quite nicely. So, more questions, or should I generate technical stuff? Now, I'm other thing while I'm here. Like, I'm starting to think of doing more of these live videos. But next time I have to elaborate a plan better, write down points and stuff. So in case I don't have people watching and asking questions, it's easier for me to start talking about something, not just creating subject out of thin air. Can you please tell us what plans with the N44 V16 VDS, N44 and N45 VDS, V2, V3, etc.? Ooh, this is a very long list. N44 V16, it's not my engine. It was built for a customer. It was a requested engine. It's different. So this engine is built for rallying. The plans for it is to go on a rally car. It's going on an E36 rally car. It's being built by Performance Automotive, which is a great friend of mine as well. And the target on that engine, like, I have loads developed for it. So I knew like what I needed to do, and then it needed to be a 1.6. So the customer asked something between 180 to 200 bhp as a 1.6. It's very achievable. Because it has a great head, but then it will just need to have higher RPM to move as much air to make really good power. N44 B19. Now this is an oddball because it was not supposed to exist. It was me, when I was building my engine, it was going to be an N44 B20 BDS. I started working my maths out, as I always do when I'm creating an engine. And I wasn't too happy with the Conrod ratio for the RPM I wanted to use because of average piston speed and the rod angle as well. Like, it's not bad at all. It's just for the RPM I'm using, it wasn't ideal. So I decided to find a very rare crankshaft, which is an 88 mil crank, for the N45, which only comes on the N45 B20S, which is the 320 SA engine. So I had to find one and then use that crank instead. The block also had different work, so I could use the same rods and pistons because I already had rods and pistons to keep the same compression ratio. So the deck height is different. So I didn't need to cut on the head because I don't really like to take a lot of material off the head. Because then if you have to remove it, I like to clean the surface every time I remove them. Then you are very restricted after that, how much you can take out of the cylinder head in order for it to stay on the same compression. And you don't have a large variety of gaskets available for these engines either. However, the N44 B19 has been quite a pleasant surprise because it's performing really well for what it is. I'm not saying power yet because, as I said earlier, it still is on its early steps on very mild head and very mild cam. But I can see like the potential the engine has. Like, the bottom end is built to take on with the 9,000 RPM. Then I just need to put like our V5 head on it and our V4 cams. We don't have any more aggressive cams than the V4, which is 260 degree of duration at 1 mil, and it's 13 mil of lift. With those cams, with that combo, it should make north of 250 brake at very high RPM. I will make a different intake manifold for that purpose. The head itself is going to be a one-off for that car. I have like so many different designs and possibilities on the heads now. It's hard for me to tell like which one I'm going to be using. This is all because I have spent so much time with the flow bench developing these heads. There are so many things I can do on those heads that I know what will do. They all affect things differently. They all reach. I think they are made for different applications. The V5 we have at the moment fitted on the N44 B20 of our customer. It's really good on flow. It's not super crazy for the valve comparing to the valve size it's using, but it has gorgeous average lift, average CFM on the lift. So it just makes it a head that it's always going to have very good torque characteristic. Also has great port speed, and it shows because that car is making 170 foot-pounds of torque. Now, what is your favorite Japanese car? It's Japanese, not Japanese. Right. This is a very hard one because I do like some Jap cars. Some cars I really like. I'm really keen on Toyota, on Japanese cars. And I love old Toyotas. I love the old Corollas, the KE20s. I think it's a gorgeous car. KE25, it's also amazing. That type of car really gets me going. I really love them. I like some Hondas. I do like. One of my favorite cars, it always has been an S2000. I think they are amazing, great engine. Honda always made amazing engines. It's the engineering behind the Honda engine. It's quite crazy, you know. They make the things their way, which some people talk a lot of bad things about them and stuff, but it's the way they gain things. And The proof is they have a lot of popularity on the tuning world because they do make gorgeous engines like the K20. It's a very good example of that. The B series, like every time Honda decides to come out with a performance engine, it's always a great engine. They put a lot of time into it, so then it works really well. But I don't like Hondas that much because Honda comes associated the image of a boy racer, which I don't identify myself as. The other problem with Honda is most of them are front-wheel drive, and I'm really rear-wheel drive biased. So I really prefer to drive rear-wheel drive. But as I said, like in terms of what my favorite Japanese car is, it's it's a very tricky one. But I can put like an old Corolla KE20 on that list for sure. It's one of my favorite Japanese cars. Trying to think, because I have quite a selection of Japanese cars. But then the thing is, I really like also the Integra DC2. I do have one. Most people don't know, but we do have one. Then it's hard. S2000, as I said, it's an amazing car, beautiful driver's car. A car that impressed me quite a lot, chassis-wise, the Toyota GT86. Really nice chassis. Yes, I was going to say, I'm forgetting the one of the most important ones. It's Evo. Evos are one of those cars that I really like. It has everything that I like apart from being boosted, but that is a car that I don't mind it being boosted. It's gorgeous. I tuned one a few years ago, and that was the most ridiculous thing I've ever been on. Accelerating, it was just crazy. I remember it went from not to 120 in just like 12 or 13 seconds. It was something silly. And they put power down on a fashion no other car does. It's a saloon, which I love saloons, and that's it. But it's one of the jobs I would buy, but I don't, because I know where I would end up with just another project, and I do have quite a lot of projects at the moment, so I don't need another one. I try to stay focused mostly on the development we do, not as much on the project cars we have to build, because if you guys knew the amount of things we have laying around, you'll be quite surprised with some of them. We have Italian, Jap, German, that's it. I used to have French as well. I used to have a 206 GTI 180. Great car to drive, much nicer. To me, it's a much nicer car than the Clio of the same era, the 182s. Any other cars, engines that you want to develop products for? Currently don't get any love, but you definitely have a market. I'm not sure. The reason for that is I would have to spend time looking at a market, and there's so much variety. The only thing I can get from the market nowadays is everything is turbo. Like I'll tell you, 90% of tuning world nowadays it's rolling on turbo, and I find myself loads of times now looking around and say, wow, very few NA builds at the moment, very few. So I think I'm already doing a niche on the days you have today, because I still do development and testing on NA, which you don't see nowadays. I like boost. What boosted 4-pot is the best for an 87? Well, as you know, for starters, the only boosted E87s there are the diesel ones. Now, I studied the idea because my customer, that is the owner of the 116 that has the N44 V20, he asked me to make a turbo build on it. But I started looking at the block properly, like studying it and seeing like what could go wrong. And we find it's not an ideal block to boost. So the only 87 you can get a test boost from factory is like a 135i, but they are very rare. So, and that, that will be the proper engine to get boost. As you know, like the N54 is, it was called by many the 2JZ from the new generation. So it's as simple as that. It's a 135 and then with boost. But 4-pot on E87 on petrol, they are all based on the same block. The N46, N45, N43. They are not the same block, but they are extremely similar. They have very similar characteristics on the casting mold. On even the gaskets are very similar. There are some differences on the head gasket, but like what I mean, the structural points of it are very similar. The N43 and late N46s have thicker head studs at the ends, which is to me was a problem that I found when I was studying the engine. And the other thing is the distance between the stud itself or the head bolt itself to the center of the bore. It's not ideal to have boost on it. So, and the way the deck is done, it was never thought to have boost on. You could boost it. I'm not saying you cannot, but the rods are very weak on them for boost because they are very thin. And then you have the problem with the head bolt diameter and the spacing between bores. As I said, you could boost it, but it's not something you would see crazy power relying on it. So it's just one thing you have to really think. If you want boost, I think it's better to go to like a 135i or something like that, that it's built for boost. I'm not saying it cannot be boosted, and of course, with quite a lot of work and time spent onto it, it can be converted into a good boost engine. But something out of the shelf, it's not ideal in any way, shape, or form. For example, the M42s, M44s are far better for boost. It's an engine that has quite a lot of potential to have boost on. It's a cast block. It has a nice deck. It's strong, so they handle boost quite well. Haltech Nexus R5. Okay, Josh, you going for a very good point in here. I am dying to try Haltech ECUs. My favorite standalone to tune on, like it's the one I'm using the most. It doesn't mean it's actually the best I worked on, because I don't have that much experience in working on loads of different standalones. I worked on a few, and one I found that works better in terms of price, quality ratio. ECU Master is quite on a very good level. For the price you pay for them, what you get, I think they are unbeatable. There are some ECUs at a similar price range, but I don't think they are as good. I have other ECUs on the same price range. Tuning them is an absolutely headache because the tables where they control fueling, it's not. I don't like it. The strategy they don't see volumetric efficiency of the engine, which is something I like to work on. So they still go by injector pulse width and stuff like that, which is not like this is like early 90s stuff, which we don't like to work that way anymore. But yeah, Haltech is an ECU I definitely would like to try. Haltech and Link is two ECUs I need to try ASAP. Link is a brand that is in my head for quite a while, because they seem to be a really good product, and also reasonably priced. Haltech, like in UK, I think there's a small market for it. It's not that far introduced into here. But on my cars, what I'm using, it's ECU Master, and I like it. It's good for what it is. For the price point, it's a nice ECU. There's some things I found with them myself. On every single car I fitted with ECU Master, for some reason, I struggle to get the idle right. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong, but it's all of them. Like the idle is very hard to tune right. So I would love to see what you could achieve in AGM, LS, or Ford Coyote. LS, I love LSs. I'm really keen on them. And Coyote engines, it's to me is like the way I see it. It's to me, it's like a new version of an LS. I know they shouldn't even be compared, but they have massive potential as well. With a 4-valve head and stuff. The LS, to me, what I like on it is it's such an old design and works so well. You know, it has been improved so much. Like it is such a good engine to work on. I've seen recently loads of videos on serious tuners working on LSs and getting the power there, testing intakes and stuff. And it's fascinating what an engine that type and this with that design can do, because you cannot really compare like a 2-valve engine with a 4-valve engine. This is 4-valve on head and stuff. It's not really comparable because of the way things happen. You know, of course, you have different types of chambers that will affect that again, but a 4-valve head is, I think, is fair to say, is always going to be more efficient than a 2-valve head. So, why do you prefer the Peugeot 206 GTI over the Clio? Very simple. For starters, the Clio, I've driven them. I cannot get the hype around them. To me, it feels like just I don't think they put enough effort into making it feel special. I driven other Clios, like I had like a normal Clio for some time, many years ago, an S, whatever it was, and the Clio RS isn't all that different. You know, for starters, I hate the sitting position on it. It's standard. It's horrendous. You sit like, I feel like I'm sitting on a chair at home. This is how I feel on it. The handling is right. It's good. It's good handling, but the thing is, because the way people hyped it, I had something in my head and I tried it and it was nothing like it. Even after setting it up, it is okay. But the problem is, I am used to drive BMWs. BMWs always had great chassis. And then, for example, now with the E87, it's like a rear wheel version of a Clio. And the chassis is just really out there. The 206 GTI 180, it feels truly special. It's a car that from the moment you open the door to close it, you compare it to a normal 206, it's very different. You know, it has a completely different feel to it, to a normal 206. It has so many things are different that the car is uncomparable. Even on the 2-liter Clio, they are different, but I don't think it's different enough. But then, if we speak about the Clio, the Mark III RS, that is a different ballgame. I really like them. They are great car to drive. I have driven one for quite a while. It was when I was on holiday. My cousin has one, and I found it amazing car to drive. Engine lacks some poke. It's nowhere near the power they announce, I think, in my opinion, from driven the car. And also the fact the car is heavier doesn't help that. But I couldn't care less because the chassis feels so good. It's so positive. And the 206 feels like a Mark, to me, my one felt like a Mark III Clio, just with a smaller, not as wide. So it just the 206 it was phenomenal. I had some great times on it. It was one of my favorite French cars. Would an M32 with a stage 4 tune, stage 4 cylinder, 4-row and trunk. Okay, Adrian, I know you follow me for a while, and I really appreciate that. We have changed the name of the heads. They are no longer stage 3, stage 4. They are now V, which is V for version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4. Also, the new version 4 of the head, it's like, forget the things you had before. Now it's completely different. I modified the way the cylinder heads are branded or to what they can offer. And A stage 4, I've done not long ago, I know you've seen it, a V4 car. I fitted a V3 head, but it's restricted by the exhaust. So it's all to do with you're going to use it. I think a V3 head works great. You will not need any more than it. You got to remember, a V3 head, it supplies enough air for it to go over 250 brake. It's the potential it has. Of course, you would need crazy cams, crazy RPM to get it out of it. Or you could fit it on a stroker, on a 2.1 stroker. It would work gorgeous. You would have so much more torque available, because the port speed is higher than on the V2. It would work really well. But I wouldn't like, the way I see it, it's all on the balance, and the best on balance, stage 4 with the V3 head is really there. I think without opening the engine and starting to do crazy stuff, this is as much as I would go. What do you think the best engine swap for chassis dynamics and the net power delivery on the E36? Best engine? You mean BMW engine or other engines? This is where it's very tricky. From my current knowledge, balance is always going to be better with the lighter. The lighter the engine is, the better it is. So I would put an N44 or N45 engine on an E36. The engine is 20 kilos lighter than the M42, M44, and it can produce as much power but with a lot more torque. And the torque gives you the average power that ultimately makes the car faster. You see, so it's a bit like that. And like the other thing is you have to see application. If you wanted to go 6-cylinder, it's very tricky because I don't like the feel of them with a 6-cylinder unless, now this is where you guys are going to get a bit confused. It's like a 2.5 or a 2.8. M3 engines, they are a bit too heavy for me. I really don't like the feel of it. And this is one of the reasons why I sold the E46 M3 I had, is because I really couldn't get on with the way the front feels. It just dynamically wasn't there for me. It's not, how do I put it? It just understeers, I don't like that. Even after setting the car up, you can go over the understeer with throttle, you get oversteer, but I don't like that. I like a car that is pointy. And for example, I prefer the feel of a 328 than an M3 when you drive them. You can really tell the difference in weights over the front. So, and I don't think like a 328 is a bad engine at all. And like, I think people have a massive misconception on me thinking 6-cylinders are bad. I don't. The only thing I keep on saying is, I haven't seen anything impressing me yet on the 6-cylinders. Like how many 6-cylinders you see passing the 100 bhp per liter? You really see very, very few. So 4-pot light block and keep further back. Yeah, you can do that as well. You can do that with the M45 generation engine. You can move it further back because there's nothing behind the head. Even on the M44, you can still move the engine an inch back. That will help. With the newer engine, you could do the same. I think it would work really, really well. So dynamically would be awesome. It's something that I really have in my head, and I do have an E36 laying around that I still don't know what to do with it. But I also have an E90 shell laying around, which I was planning on putting the 116 engine on it. But this is something that I'm still not quite decided yet on what to do, because this E90 platform is such a step up on the E36, but at the same time, the E36 has that raw feel. It's just different to drive. I think I have too many years of E36 to not like it. If you guys understand what I'm saying, it's a really, really good chassis, especially coming from the 90s. So 4-pot light block. What is the best first car? What is the best first car? That's the same as asking how long is a piece of string. It depends what you want. My first car is not what you would call like a first car. It was not like the usual first car for people. I had the Mark II Golf GTI G60 was my first car, and yeah, started on the wrong lines. Then my second one was quite a difference because my second one was a Fiat Punto 1.2, so it was quite a change. It's just one of those. It depends. Like you have to look at everything, like insurance, and you have to work that one out. I cannot tell what is the best first car. It depends if you want to tune it, if you want to do it standard. It's one of those. Now I'm still thinking about that Holtec Nexus R5. I really would like to try one. So if anyone has one that I could have a go on, having a look and see what it can do and what it doesn't, how the software works and everything. And talking about software, I have still to download some softwares. So I can open another window here and go to link. Software. This isn't done. Okay, so G4X legacy versions. Wow, they have so many versions. Trying to see the links because I really keen on a link. So guys, I'm going to end the video soon. So if you want to go for some more questions, just go. Feel free to do so. There's other thing like Turbo 13 garage 36 per size in your opinion. For the power it has at the moment, no, it's a bit too big. But for the target we have had redefined, it's perfect. We're targeting 600 brake on it, so the G25 660 was the perfect turbo for it. The thing is, though, with the G25, it has super fast response, even for the size it has. You gotta remember it's a turbo that is capable of doing 600 brake, and the car still is a 1.8, and it has full boost at 4,000 RPM, and this is crazy. If you see, like, if you go back just 5 years, you would say that that's unachievable. It's not possible to do at all. So it's a great turbo. It is really good turbo. You know, they are expensive, but I can see why they cost the money they cost. It's a great thing. For if it was to run the current power it has, like, or the potential like we decided, we had a smaller turbo. As a matter of fact, we had the a GTX 2871, I think, yeah, which is perfect for the 500 bhp. But because then the numbers have changed towards the end of the build, that turbo was sold and it was bought the G25 660 for it. So this is why, because then we decided the car was going to run E85, and of course, like, more power will be possible with it. You know, the car is still running low boost levels, but I'm not tuning the car. I just I built some part of the engine top end. I decided, like, the things that are going to make the power. Then the guy, he built the engine, and then there's someone else that does a really good job on tuning it. They are very big with the GTR stuff, like the R35 stuff, and Supras areas to do crazy turbo builds. I think they are better on understanding what an engine needs as a turbo. So, and they can make it really reliable as well, which is very important. So this is it. So, let me see. What other real drive cars do you like apart from BMW and Porsche? So you know me well. Hello. Um, GT86, Toyota, fantastic chassis. I mentioned earlier. Um, now there aren't many though. You see, if you start looking, you got Mark, the Mercedes, and a few Jabs are rear-wheel drive. I don't mind an S15. I think they look very cool. Uh, you know, another one I forgot, which is under the Toyota umbrella, which is the Toyota Altezza, the 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 proper one, the RS 200, sorry, I should say, with the beams for three 3EG engine. I think it is the right name for it. Yeah, which is awesome. It's a really nice car. They have a nice chassis as well and nice feel. Very good gearbox on them as well. But the thing is, it's a bit hard to beat BMW on the dynamics as a rear-wheel drive. They've been doing it for so long. I think they know it really well. So I've driven so many cars as well. It's hard for me to judge. And like the BMW, I think it's just for the price and what you get, it's unbeatable. You know, the new ones are just great. They such a good base. So I'm trying to think more real drives. Lighten me up with some that you might think I like. You know, I've driven so many cars. I cannot really tell you how many I have driven. So don't ask for the worst ones, the biggest disappointments I have, because it's the way I see things. MR2, SW30 maybe, SW20 I had one as well, and it's, well, Opel Omega, never driven one. Oh my god, never driven one either. VXR8, even though they have yeah. But usually Vauxhall doesn't have the greatest chassis. Opel doesn't have the greatest chassis either, but I still would like to try it. I think the Opel Omega looks so cool. It's a really cool looking car. It's proper gangster, especially the 92 version of it. It looks awesome. I really like the look of it. Crazy with a straight six at the front, big straight six. It's just really nice. The other thing is, like you're talking like VXR8, it's a car I never driven, not because I never want to, it's because cars with really big power numbers don't fascinate me. You know, as some of you might know that follow me for long enough, I have a 997 Turbo S. It's not, it's just stupid how fast it accelerates, but you cannot enjoy it because it becomes too quick. So I'd rather drive something with less power that you can drive and enjoy than I'm seeing the next question. I'm already laughing. Then you know, I like to stay flat out, hear the engine, leave it without to go too crazy. Opinion on M47 crank for M44. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Okay, because I spoke about it on the early of this video, but I'll rather ask you the question. Why is that question? Why does my opinion matter on it? And what you want to achieve? I think the most important thing is, what do you want to achieve? What is your point? What are you expecting out of the M47 crank? I was surprised with the chassis of this. I feel tighter than it is. Oh, really? That's good. That is really good. You know, because usually they are not that great. You know, I driven like a a Mustang with a Coyote engine a few years ago, 2-3 years, 2015 it was, so it's 5 years ago. It was when they came out. One of my customers that I used to do racing with, he bought one and he let me have a go on it. And I didn't quite like the feel of it. It felt a bit wallowy. I felt the chassis had some potential, but suspension was tuned too soft. But the car is also heavy. So that's the thing, didn't really, but as I said, I'm quite hard to please. It doesn't look like it because I like to tune small engines, but I'm quite hard to please. So still waiting. JDM Car Civic, tell me just for what? What's the application like you're thinking, and what's the target? Funny, JDM Car Civic asking a question about an M47 crank. This is quite funny. Cheap stroke of option. Yeah, but why do you want to stroke it? What's the ultimate goal for you to stroke it? F80 M3, I have spent now some time on an F80 M3, and how do I put it? It's a seriously quick car, massive capability. Don't like the feel of it. It's on stock. This is standard car, unmodified, not with different suspension, different wheels. It's hard to read where the car is. It's not like the good thing about an E90. It was so nicely balanced and poised. Well, why don't I like the M54? B30, M54 B30 is one that I'm not too keen on, because it's not really a sporty engine. It makes power because it's big, but dynamically isn't all that, and it's an engine that is not willing to rev, otherwise it falls apart. M54 B25, amazing fun engine, really great fun engine. I had one. The thing is, we have to see, like I had these engines, I worked on them, and I've seen their flaws and their faults and what they can do and what they cannot. And to me, what makes a good engine is not the power it makes, it's the specific power per liter it makes. I don't care if you have 500 bhp, if you have an 8-liter engine. To me, that only tells me it's a bad engine. You see, this is the way I see it. Now is when you have a 2-liter engine with 300 bhp that I say that is crazy, that is mega. That is the way I see things. It's this is why, like, I don't follow people when they just go on about, oh, my car, like when they use the M54 B30 and they have, oh, it's 250, 260 bhp, right? But it's on a 3-liter, and where is that impressive? You gotta think ahead. Now, plan is for high RPM and 44 NA. It's the wrong crank. It is the wrong crank. See, when you want high RPM, you have to start looking at things like the weight. The crank just to start, is really heavy. It's over 15 kilos in weight, which is very heavy for a crank. Then there's other thing you look into, rod ratio. Unless you have a custom piston or a proper piston on it, your conrod length is going to be small. And then what will cause is the dwell time of the piston is also going to be small. And what effect is that going to have is on high RPM, the flame is not going to have enough time to travel through the chamber. So you come to a point on the RPM that you stop making power because of the flame propagation. The piston doesn't stay on the top for long enough for it to just burn efficiently. This is small details, but if you want to build a high RPM engine, you have to think a high RPM engine always likes to be or a square, like with the same rod, same stroke as bore, or like bigger bore than stroke. Important things to take into attention is the length of the conrod, and of course, like the piston speed, you should keep that in mind. It's like I'm not saying piston speed is critical, but it's something you should look into. And I'll give an example on the engine I have on the 116, the 1.9. It's a 1.9 because I didn't like the Conrod ratio for the RPM I was intending to have with the stroke crank it was going to have. It wasn't bad at all, but to live at that high RPM and still work efficiently, you need piston to have some better dwell time. And that comes with the rod angular acceleration and the time the piston dwell. And it's like the longer the conrod, the longer the piston stays on the top. You see, so on that transition from one side to the other of the crank. And this is things that some people don't understand. High rev NA engines, you need to concern that. That's what you need to take into concern. Stroker cranks are good to make a lot of torque. It's, as I said earlier, like if you want to make a build that you want to have good torque all the way through the RPM range, it's with you build a stroker. You have really good torque available everywhere. It's good. If you want to build something racier, I don't think it's the right option. So Matt Knowles, yeah, I was waiting for you yesterday to come and pick your head up. Check you out with your mixed media live streams. Yeah, I think it's important. So it's like I try to help people as much as I can. And I know recently I haven't been as active on just sharing what I do and stuff. So the lives bring more content and it's easier to explain things. As I found it's terrible because people online tend to misunderstand or misinterpret what I meant and the way I put things on the table. I think I'm not the greatest person on writing what I'm trying to say. From your experience, what if 36 chassis reinforcement should be done track days without using a roll cage? No problem at all. You're welcome to. Cross member underneath, very big improvement. I think from my feel, like I've done this quite a while ago, so it's hard to do a back-to-back comparison now and trying to remember everything in detail. But from what I can remember, I think I felt more difference from the cross member on the subframe than from a strut mount on the top. On the rear, definitely put a strut brace. It's really noticeable the difference it makes. And this is it. If you don't want to go roll cage, I think that's the best thing to do. You just put the lower cross member and the rear strut brace. I would put on the front. I wouldn't bother with a strut brace unless it's a very good one. But still, you gotta think. You gotta see what suspension you have, tires and stuff to make it really work. The biggest difference I had when I fitted the lower cross section was the fact that the car just felt so much more positive on the reaction. I guess it's because it tightens the front. It just gave me a nicer steering feel to the car. This is the thing I really enjoyed. Then there's other things you can do to improve the feel of the car as well. And of course, then you'll be able to drive it on a better manner because you feel better the chassis. You feel the chassis in the better place. Which is like on my 36, I had where the spring sits. I had the 46 arms, the aluminium ones, and then camber adjustable arms, but decent ones. That also gave me a much nicer feel of the rear, more positive. I don't know the exact reason, but I know for sure it wasn't just psychological. The rear definitely felt different. I believe it's because there is a lot less torsion on the parts than on standard. As you know, standard arms are very flimsy. It's 2 bits of metal. The upper one is pressed two sheets of metal pressed together. There's no difference in weight. It was like 100 grams from one to the other, but the aluminium ones surely felt nicer, had a nicer feel to it. Yeah, no, 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 no. Yeah, weather is a bit poor at the moment. It's snowing outside, um, proper snowing. I got my my garden covered in snow. It's all white on the back, and I mean, like, the grass is quite big at the moment, and it's all covered in white. So it's proper snowing. It's quite a nice scene outside. Very beautiful. Adrian, I really like the questions you're bringing to the table. It's important stuff that most people oversee. They more simply focus on the power of things, but you just more focused on getting the car to perform better, not only through engine but through the rest. It's good. This is what I think brought me apart from the field when I joined the Kumo Cup. Is the attention to detail I had on setting the car up, um, and then I end up making the class winning cars on the class that I was involved on, the 318. And on early days, there were a lot more. Then suddenly they started dropping because people wanted faster things to get into the table, but they never allowed to a modification to the 318. So, which is sad. Yeah, but that's it. You know, the other thing is, again, it's the 318s. It's not about the power. It's about the way they feel compared to like a 328 or a 325 or a 323. It's just, to me, is a much more positive car to drive. It's just it feels nicer to drive. And a straight line, they may not be as fast. They're nowhere near when you compare them standard, but it's just it's not quite the same when you start throwing them around bends and doing B roads, which is my favorite type of driving, is B road driving. Yeah, so this is why I'm not really too keen on power. I'm more focused on the balance of the car. This is what makes the car better, you know. And on circuit, it's a big part of it is the balance of the car. So otherwise, you'll see race cars with 1,000 horsepower all day long, and you don't. It's really rare for them to go over 500 bhp. They don't need a lot of power. So because they have all the balance. And I also believe less power is going to make you a better driver, because you have to rely on your skill other than just on the power of the engine. So, let me see if I missed something. Okay, so I think it's time for me to have some lunch as well, because I haven't had any lunch yet. So I'm going to leave this video here. It has been nice for the first live stream. I'm thinking of starting to do the 4-Pot Cave, this format, on YouTube other than Instagram, purely because there's a lot of people that doesn't have Instagram. And in here, like, anyone can go just on YouTube and just watch it. Now, the thing is, I have to work is, how am I going to be doing this? Because I can only do it at home. Then how am I going to show you, like, if I want to show you like the dyno printouts and stuff like that, I cannot really turn the camera to itself to show the screen. So this is the only problem I'm going to have, but I might just print things out and show you the things instead, because like my YouTube channel doesn't allow me to do live feed on the phone because I don't have enough subscribers yet. I need to be over 1,000 subscribers, which on my previous YouTube channel I did have. But because I started new BDS Motorsport one, I don't want to mix both channels because it's two different companies. it's two separate approaches. There's things that we used to do back then that we don't do anymore, and that I want to get things mixed so people don't get confused. Because like as we go along, we learn more and we start doing things differently. Doesn't mean it was the wrong way of doing it. It's just a different way of doing it. You know, it's the way things are. Anyway, it'd be nice to have you on board. Let's hope on next one there's more people. I will start trying to do this, let's say every other day, and I will post like when I'm about to go live. I will do a post like on Instagram, on social media, try to inform you all what time it's going to be on, and that's it. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.